Justice Department has finished a still secret draft report on whether and how Bush administration officials tried to rewrite torture law. And now in our fourth story tonight, former Bush administration officials are trying to rewrite the report on how they tried to rewrite the torture law, even though we learned tonight the report does not recommend any criminal prosecutions of those lawyers. The Washington Post reporting this afternoon that unnamed former Bush administration officials, quote, are lobbying behind the scenes to push Justice Department leaders to water down an ethics report criticizing lawyers who blessed harsh detainee interrogation tactics. Water down. That's really what it said. If only they could have worked in the word tort. At issue, the Internal Justice Department report on how three Justice Department lawyers, Jay Bybee, John Yoo, and Stephen Bradbury, issued legal guidance declaring waterboarding was legal conduct against U.S. detainees, an opinion rendered amid intense pressure from Vice President Cheney to authorize such brutal treatment. According to the Associated Press, Bybee, Yoo, and Bradbury had until yesterday to submit their comments on the DOJ's internal report, which explains why the Post is now reporting that attorneys for the three men contacted former Bush justice officials and got them to lobby current Obama justice officials to soften the report. We do not know whether or not they succeeded. We do know the Washington Post reported that an earlier draft recommended disciplinary action against Bybee and Yoo by their local bar associations. And tonight's reports indicate no change from that. At a congressional hearing next week, a former Bush official who objected to their waterboarding rationales, Philip Zelikow, will testify about the genesis of Bush torture, along with whistleblowing former FBI agent Ali Soufan. And two members of Congress, chairman of the House Judiciary and House Foreign Affairs Committees, have given Secretary of State Clinton a deadline of Thursday, this Thursday, to release a pivotal memo sent to Mr. Bush's National Security Council deputies challenging the waterboarding rationales, a memo that was authored by Mr. Zelikow back in 2005 when he was counselor to the then Secretary of State, Dr. Rice. And both he, Zelikow, and Rice were behind closed doors in the administration, vocal opponents of what its supporters called enhanced interrogation techniques and what the International Committee of the Red Cross called, here's the word, torture. Let's turn now to Jonathan Turley, professor of constitutional law at George Washington University. John, thanks for your time tonight.
Hi, Keith.
No recommendation of prosecution, just recommendations that local bar associations do something, and that's not watered down enough already for them?
Well, it is astonishing. It's like they had commingling of accounts or something. What we're talking about was involvement in a war crime. And the question is, what are they being referred to for? I mean, if they did nothing wrong. The fact is, this country established in World War II, we tried judges who handed down decisions and said that they were just following the law. We said you can't get away with that. These individuals played critical roles in the creation of this country's first official torture program. And, you know, we now know the answer of how long it takes a department to cover up its own war crimes. It takes 5 years. I mean, this is like having a hospital being given the job of investigating itself and whether it committed criminal malpractice. And so after 5 years, the Justice Department, remember, this was the Bush administration that was investigating the Bush administration at the Justice Department. And what they come out with is, no, you can't really charge a Justice Department attorney with playing a role in an alleged war crime. Well, that's a very important piece of precedent that may come to haunt us.
You mentioned the Second World War. It's probably instructional to go watch a movie about this called Judgment at Nuremberg.
That's right.
That's not fiction. They put the people who enforce the laws, the judges, on trial, in some cases, for long prison sentences. Back to the, the Justice Department report and the Zelikow memo that Congress wants, and even this hearing next week. Do any of these things look like they might be in positions to reveal exactly who made the DOJ sign off on torture, who guaranteed that was going to happen?
Yeah, I think what we're going to see is a great deal more of details. And quite frankly, a lot of lawyers are going to want to look at this. You know, these lawyers really represent, I think, what Oppenheimer said when we had the first atomic explosion, that physicists have known sin. And that's really this moment for lawyers. These are sort of our fallen angels, people who seem to turn their back on our training. And their stories are really stories of personal corruption. I mean, the corruption of ambition. In the case of Jay Bybee, he went to Gonzales to try to get a judgeship on the Ninth Circuit, and Gonzales sent him to the OLC and later gave him the task of justifying a war crime. And when he did that, then he got the judgeship. And I got to tell you, I think ambition had a lot to do with that corruption of morality, not just legal judgment, that led to his authoring those memos.
And now we know somebody who never saw Judgment at Nuremberg, because that's exactly what the movie is about. That's the Burt Lancaster speech that is actually worth, again, I'm not trying to sell copies of a DVD. But back in the real world, what if Philip Zelikow testifies that Dick Cheney personally told him to go rip up every copy of the anti-torture memo, to eat every copy of the anti-torture memo? What is the point of it if Congress reveals this, or any investigation reveals it, and nobody in power is going to hold anybody else accountable?
Well, that's the most astonishing thing. It's like we're having public tours of a crime scene and nobody is bothering to arrest the guy in the room who committed the crime. And it gets more and more bizarre, particularly because the destruction that he has described, which is, of course, very serious, dovetails with the destruction at the CIA, where we know that high-ranking officials destroyed the tapes of the torture because they were afraid it would be used against them. I mean, we have a government that's acting like it's some mob outfit in New Jersey that is destroying evidence and going to made guys to justify themselves. And nobody is pushing in Congress, seriously pushing for a special prosecutor. It is ridiculous for the Department of Justice to be investigating itself in this respect. And, of course, inevitably it's going to find that its lawyers shouldn't be charged with crimes.
Well, we're out of time, John, but I did have to say here, I think you did unfairly insult mob outfits in New Jersey by comparing them to the Bush administration. We'll just have to leave it like that. Jonathan Turley of George Washington University. Other than that, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Keith.